I am not like a television professional, but I worked for a very short amount of time in local cable TV right out of college in the late 90s. And I can tell you that whenever we went on a location shoot, people who were interviewed wore lavalier or lapel microphones. And she was filming with a tiny little camcorder.
Annyeonghaseyo! Welcome to Afternoona Delight, where Lia, Megan, and Amy, romance novelists, and your K-romance guides. So grab some dekboki and listen to your new favorite unnies.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Mpbs.
Look, right now my Mpbs are 3.0. They are just hanging on. Actually, no. My Mpbs just went sky high. I went from a 3 to a 190.
Oh my god.
Leah, I'm at 660.
I've never been that high. I wasn't even that high when I tried to get BTS tickets and I went to a special internet place downtown.
In case you're all wondering what we're talking about, we're talking about the speed of our internet, which is Mbps, megabytes per second, which Leah likes to pronounce as MIPS.
So my internet was going really slow, and I was like, I need to see what my MIPS are.
It was like the way she's...
It was just so serious. Like, I'm going to check my MIPS.
Hold on, let me check my MIPS.
It's way funnier for us, I'm sure, than it is for anybody listening, but I don't care.
I just don't know why it's so funny to either of you.
I'm going to be lying in bed tonight, and I'll just go, MIPS, and start crying.
And you're going to tell Neil, and he's not going to think it's funny.
He is not going to find the humor in this.
He's just glad he's not my IT guy.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, MIPS. And that was after she that was after she called the movie that we're covering on the pod today Dreamer, and we're like, Leah, it was called Dream.
Why is that funny? It's so close.
I don't know why.
I'm just glad that I could amuse you tonight. And then you thought it was funny I was eating sausage.
No. Eat sausage all you want.
Yeah.
But listeners, please tell us what you think about a sausage Caesar salad.
And she's like shoveling it in. Like it's the most delicious thing she's ever had. And it's a Caesar salad with sausage in it? Like
I just don't know why. I feel like maybe my life should come with a laugh track. Because this is just me living my normal life, and apparently it's amusing.
You are amusing.
What did you eat for dinner tonight?
I had a very boring turkey sandwich because I had to eat it in my car, waiting for my son's soccer camp to be let out. So yeah,
I had protein fusilli that's made out of beans.
we're so boring.
What did you put as a topping?
Marinara sauce and some shredded mozzarella.
Boy,
Yeah,
Not a sausage. I'm sorry.
no, it was no Italian sausage and Caesar salad. That's
No, it was not.
oh god,
Well,
Amy and I are really living in the fast lane.
I have to say, I felt proud of myself because I cooked for my child.
I mean, that is commendable.
It was a big win for me because my husband and the girls are still gone, and I often will just tell my child to, well, we've been at my parents' house, so he's been getting 3 square meals a day. But when it's just us, I tend to just put things in the fridge and be figure out what looks good. I mean, I'm not starving him, but I'll be there's apple, there's
My
cheese.
kids do the same thing most of the time. It's,
Yeah, you're
I mean,
teaching them
Figure it out.
it is the way for teenagers.
Well, I mean, then you're just teaching him how to do it for himself. I think that that's a great life skill, Leah.
Yeah, and when the zombie apocalypse comes, I want him to be able to trash panda his way to, safety. But when it's just us, I don't often cook dinner. And so tonight I was like, look, I'm going to be a good mom. I'm going to make sausage in the air fryer. And then I was laughing because recently I went out to dinner with a friend and she was complaining about her husband And she was like, sorry, because it's pretty funny. I was sitting there and she was like, when he cooks, he thinks he can just turn on the air fryer and open up like a bag of salad and call it dinner. I was like, yeah?
What else did you call it?
I feel very judged right now.
That is
my
dinner.
mom used to be like, talking about like another relative being like, they just cook and they just think they can like heat up some Trader Joe's and call it dinner. I'm like, what do you think happens in my house? Because I can tell you, look, I tend to swing in pendulums. And so I have swung in the pendulums where I'm like, let me make my own pasta. I made my own.
I was just going to say, like, I'm not like rolling pasta through the machine.
Yeah, I've been in those positions. I made my own laundry soap when the babies were born. Like, I was laughing actually because I watched a video when I was home in Michigan, and it was me in the hospital having just had my oldest child, my son. And the amount of preciousness I had with that child, like, I'm like, okay, you can hand it to me. Oh, let me move the pillow over here so I can just get the perfect hold for the baby. And like, just the way I was acting, I was like, oh my God. By the time I had Poppy the third, that's when I was watching Heart of Dixie, Amy, with you. And I was just like, just give me the baby. I'm going to shove it on the titty and I'm going to watch Heart of Dixie on the CW and nobody bother me. It was like a complete 180 from like, oh, who's going to hand me the baby? Oh, I got to get the pillows. I was like, oh my God, who is this princess in the hospital bed?
I do remember I needed like help, like getting my son positioned, breastfeeding was like a big production every time that I had to get the pillow just right, blah, blah, blah. And then by the time I had Hazel, I was like talking to you guys on on my computer, like with one hand, telling you about like, oh, I read your book today. It was so good. And I'm breastfeeding Hazel at the same time.
With a baby on the boob. Yeah.
Yeah. It was no longer precious. Like, I don't give a shit. But Leah, you're doing great. An air fryer dinner with a salad is perfectly acceptable.
Look, I didn't feel, when she told me, I felt judged, but I also didn't care.
But you're also like, well, my kids are fed.
Well,
fed is best.
food is good. Look, it's going to come around again the next day, and the next day I'm going to get a lot more chances. It's the most boring thing in the world is like, oh, then there's lunch, and then there's fucking dinner. Like, there's just food just keeps needing to come.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever like, I ate. This is the woman's work. And I mean, like, not that like we need it to be, but I just want to acknowledge that women's work is very cyclical. Often, like, what is seen as quote unquote, I'm using air quotes, no one can see me because I've had to turn my camera off because my MIPs are low. But a lot of our work is like the work that just gets, the work of women often is very repetitive. And that doesn't mean that like women can't do other things. Of course they can. You can do whatever you want to do. But I'm just saying traditionally it's like everyone just eats their fucking food and then they want their lunch and then they want their dinner and then they wear their laundry and then they get their laundry dirty. And it's just always like the thing that happens. And then a dude's like, I built a fence and my fence just sits there and I look at it and I feel like I did the thing. But it's like, okay. And I told this to my husband once and he was like, well, actually, I don't agree. And I'm still pissed, actually.
Well, I had to go to my daughter's field hockey tournament that was in Virginia Beach this past weekend. Okay. And like, it was for 3 days and they were like busy days. You're at anyone who's been to like an away sports tournament knows you're busy. You don't, even when you have downtime, you need to use it to rest. And so I ate terribly the whole time I was there. Like fast food, pizza. It was to the point where I was like, I can't eat another like drop of grease to like, I can't. Like, I felt bloated. I felt so gross. And so I was like telling my husband, like, I was like, it felt really good to get home. And like, I was like, I do not want to eat out. I just want to like eat my hummus and vegetables. And I'm not even like a healthy person, but it's like you eat like shit for like 5 days. It's going to catch up to you. And he was like, and he was like, well, see, I just wouldn't eat. And I was like,
he just wouldn't eat food at all?
Yeah. He's like,
on the trip, he would just.
oh yeah,
Fast?
he was like, well, see, that's where I benefit because I can fast. And I was like,
oh, Neil.
seriously. And I was like, okay, good freaking for you, but I cannot, Neil. My blood sugar drops, and then I'm gonna like, I was like, I'm sorry that
I need my crackers.
Neil's like, I like to feel my digestive fluid sloshing in my empty guts.
And he goes, well, you wouldn't survive very long in the zombie apocalypse. And I go, I never claimed I would. Like, I was like,
Megan will be wandering around. Does anybody have a snack?
where's Wendy's?
Where's my peanut butter crackers?
But it's so funny. He was like, well, I can fast. And I was like, good freaking for you. God, shut up.
The zombie apocalypse doesn't want fasters either. You need to be well fed.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll be the trash panda in the dumpsters, but I'll be fed.
Yeah, you're like,
People will be like, is that a zombie? Like, just like, rah, rah, in the dumpster. And I'll be like, nope, just Megan getting a snack.
It's like me with a half-eaten chicken nugget.
so my mom, this says a lot, actually. My mom once, I was just driving with her, just dead silence. And she was like, you know what? If it ever really hit the fan, I would just go to McDonald's and get a bunch of ketchup packets and add water to it. And then I'd have tomato soup and I'd be okay.
Hey.
No context. This is a lot. And I was like, but we're presupposing many factors to make a McDonald's. Like you're going to go get your McDonald's ketchup packet?
So the shit hits the fan, but McDonald's is still open. And we still have clean water.
I think what she was trying to get to was maybe we hadn't had like a societal collapse, but maybe just like a personal financial ruin.
I mean,
and she was like,
valid.
okay, kids, I've gone to forge you some delicious ketchup for our tomato soup tonight. And we would be like, yes, mother, thank you. And Megan would be like, don't worry, Hazel, I got you half a nug.
I ate the other half, though.
She had to keep her blood sugar balanced.
It's like Hazel has to rip it from Megan's teeth.
I chew it first and then give her the leftovers.
Chew it and get the
baby bird it to her.
Let me just get the flavor. Oh my god, this is not.
This has gone off the fucking rails.
How did we go from Mpbs to this? Okay. Oh god. Okay.
You know, I think what happened is I drank a Paloma. I drank 2 Palomas.
What's a Paloma?
It's well, I got a can of it, but it is tequila and grapefruit juice. But I was drinking Jose Cuervo.
That's what you were like chugging down, Leah.
A minute ago, gulping it. We could hear it through the microphone.
Look, and people are gonna be like, "Oh, do you have a drinking problem?" I don't.
She goes, I don't.
She's like, I have zero problem drinking really fast.
I can just drink really fast and eat my sausage really fast.
You
I
did.
remember one time, and here's another Nick story, and then we'll get going. We were in South America, and you can get like carne libre, like go to like an Argentinian restaurant, and they'll just give you all the meat you can eat for free. And I remember like I really liked it, and I remember picking up a sausage, and at one point I'm like, this is the best thing I ever put in my mouth. And he's like, I'm really not attracted to you when you talk like that.
Wait, they give you all the meat for free?
No. Like, you pay a set fee.
You just...
Oh, sorry. You pay a set fee, and then they just give you all the meat you could ever want.
So it's like a buffet.
Okay. No.
You don't get up. They just come to you with, like, these big trays, and they just cut meat at you and toss it on your plate.
They have restaurants like Fogo de Chao they have here. I don't know if they have that by you. I've never been. I have a friend, one of my good friends, Mindy. I'll give a shout out to Mindy, because this is her favorite type of restaurant to go to because they just keep coming around and carving meat onto your plate.
How did I not know this exists? Are you kidding me?
So
It's a Brazilian steakhouse.
I have a picture of myself in this restaurant holding a sausage, pretending to be skull fucked with it.
Well, you clearly need to share that on our Instagram when this episode comes out.
Or not.
I would love it. I would
Now we're
love
gonna have
it.
something
In stories.
You're bringing down the intellectual timber of this podcast by talking about sausage skull fucking. Trust me, if you came for my intellectualism, it's just best we leave. Go now.
It's not the day
Quickly.
for it.
I mean,
It's July. It's hot. It's like record temperatures. Like
it's also just my average conversation.
true. It's also just us. It's us.
But I have a dream.
Yeah.
What is that dream, Leah?
I have a dream that sometime we're gonna pick a fucking movie to watch that I'm not gonna like wish I didn't watch.
Right.
Well, okay, wait. The
Handmaiden.
last movie that we did was The Handmaiden.
And you loved it.
Okay, I picked it.
Right, you picked it.
Well, true.
So I'm gonna wait till we have a movie.
But I
done.
feel like I don't feel like this was anyone's pick. Like everybody was excited this was coming, I thought.
Look, the reason this happened is because of me. Because
Yeah,
I
anyway.
didn't watch See You in My 19th Life.
This is right. That's what we were
This is
supposed to be
your fault.
recording tonight.
This is
Yeah.
your
It is my fault. So look, it's fine. And
It's fine.
I did not hate this movie. Let's be clear.
Yeah, and it was only 2 hours of your life. It's not like we had you watch like
no, I was not upset, and this was not like
What- It wasn't like Pirates.
Yeah.
Like we'll never get over the Pirates movie.
Did we do a podcast on pirates?
We
think
had
it
to
was-
have.
I think it was only for the Patreon.
I don't think
Was
we ever did,
it?
like, a real podcast on pirates.
Yeah, if you want to hear our podcast on pirates, you have to join our Patreon. But I am almost positive it was only for them, and they were like, I think they were
Spoiler,
like, why?
0 out of 0.
Yeah,
I could not tell you one thing about that.
I think
Movie.
I like stopped halfway.
They were
oh,
cannibalistic, or no, there were meat-eating penguins.
right. The violent penguins are the only thing, and the bulls, where Kang Han-no was like riding on the back of a bull.
Like
That's the only thing
backwards.
I
Like is he
remember.
riding backwards? Like it like
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, like a comedy, weird slapstick thing.
There was a whirlpool at some point.
There was a
Well-
whirlpool.
Wait a minute. Segue. Speaking of Kang Han-no,
Okay.
he
That
has
was a happy surprise.
Yeah.
Yes.
He has a cameo in the movie that we are going to talk about today.
And this makes me think the other movie I really enjoyed that we did was Midnight Runners.
We did love
Right?
Midnight.
Which
Well,
was
that's
Park Seo-Joon and Kang Han-no.
when he popped up on screen. I'm like, wait, did I not know this was a buddy soccer movie? Like
know,
I'm like,
it
it's like, I'm like, wait, is this just a cameo? Like, yeah, I had to look it
did
up because I
know-
had to know. I didn't know because I didn't know he was going to be in it.
Yeah, I did love. He had a great cameo. Like it was great. So, okay, are we ready to get into it then?
Let's
Sure.
get into it.
Let's do it.
My MIPs are, hang on, let me just give you the MIP reading. No, my MIPs are good right now. We're at
MIP.
190.
A MIP reading. Okay. So, Dream is a 2023 sports comedy drama starring Park Seo-joon and IU, which adapts the true story of South Korea's participation in the Homeless World Cup in 2010. It is on Netflix, by the way, in the U.S., so that is where we watched it. And yes, you heard that right. The Homeless World Cup is a real thing, organized by the Homeless World Cup Foundation, a social organization which advocates the end of homelessness through the sport of association football. Also, as a side note, in the U.S., we have to be different and weird and call this sport soccer. But for the sake of the majority of the world and South Korea, we are going to refer to this sport as football for this podcast.
Okay.
And, I mean, we
Are
might
we?
slip. We might slip, but
I wasn't aware of this rule until just now.
it
Look,
doesn't have
I'm
to be.
fine with it. I'm
It's
fine
just
with
that in the movie they kept saying football, so I was
Yes,
like, or at least
of
that's what
course.
the subtitle said, and that is what they
Yeah.
got there. Okay, so go ahead and search YouTube for 2023 Homeless World Cup, and you can watch this year's Korea team beat Australia 9-2. It was played this year in Sacramento, California, just this month. And every year it's in like a different country. So the movie, the 2010 World Cup or Homeless World Cup was played in Budapest. And that is like where they go in the movie. So, but 2010 was a different story. It was Korea's first year attending, and they placed last out of 43 teams and were the subject of a TV documentary which caught the attention of Dream director Lee Byeong-heon. So the premise of Dream. Park Seo-Joon stars as Yoon Hong-dae, a professional footballer whose career is derailed when he assaults a journalist with an eye poke.
A two-fingered eye poke.
A two-fingered eye poke. In an effort to fix his public image, he agrees to coach the country's homeless World Cup team. IU plays Somin, the director filming the documentary about the team. While the film is loosely based on the 2010 team, the characters and the events and basically like the plot are all fictional. I would say more that was like the inspiration, I think, for the movie. The movie introduces the team members and their circumstances that led to their homelessness, from a businessman who served time for fraud to another who lent money to the wrong person. The film, which released in April of this year, was not really a commercial success in Korea, and it's not expected to recoup its budget. And the South China Morning Post interviewed the director, who has some insight on the movie and its reception.
The film isn't about Hongdae. It's about homeless people, he insists. We brought Hongdae in to make the film more entertaining because homelessness isn't exactly the most entertaining subject, right? The battle I faced was in not making caricatures of the real players. There had to be some compromises here and there. All I can say is I don't think this was received that well commercially after being released in Korea in April. He went on to say that COVID caused issues as filming locations had to be moved and postponed, leading to a tight budget and tough schedule, with the actors filming the sports scenes in cold weather, so their white breath had to be edited out by CGI in post-production.
The director goes on to say, "It's not my job to be satisfied with each and every project that I do. If you don't know the context of the story, you may perceive it as too typical. Audiences aren't obligated to provide themselves with the context before they see it. But without that information, they might just think this is another homeless story. That's something I still think about, whether the way I'm telling or delivering the story could have been different. That does give me pause."
Don't you think his comments are... like, the tone and kind of what he's saying, I feel like I know we're reading a lot through, like, translated, but I feel a sense of, like, maybe this project didn't end up like he wanted it to be, you know? Because he just seems like...
He sounds meh.
Yeah.
I mean, he said it's not my job to be satisfied with each and every project that I do, but I would hope that you would be proud of the film that you put out there, but it is hard to tell how he feels about it.
Yeah. So I guess, let's chat about the film. What is your overall reaction?
Yeah, I mean, no, I was going to say, like, I feel like Leah and I had a similar reaction. I was just kind of meh.
I thought it started strong and then mid to the end.
I like the beginning with Park Seo-Joon and his game and stuff like that, and his frustration over, the reporter asking him questions about his mother and stuff like that, and it's setting up a backstory for him. But then they did make it kind of silly and slapstick with him poking the guy in the eyes, like...
I didn't mind the poke in the eye. It went downhill for me even after the poke in the eye.
I'm sort of the opposite. I felt that the beginning was very frantic. It felt like frantic and rushed. We were like moving from scene to scene kind of quickly. And I kind of felt like unsettled in like the narrative. And then once they started really getting into the backstories of the characters on the team, once we started to understand Park Seo-Joon a little bit better, like we met his mother, that's when I really started to enjoy the movie a lot. I would say in the end, like, I felt very satisfied. Again, is this the best movie I've ever seen? Like, no. And I'm not necessarily going to, like, die on the dream hill, but I would say for me, my overall reaction was like, okay, this is what I want from a sports movie.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's nothing that I disliked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it just didn't hit me.
Totally get it.
I think for me, it felt kind of heavy-handed. And this is the issue that, like, so I live in an area with a high amount of homelessness. Like, we have a very big unhoused population in California. And so maybe it also hits differently, like, depending on, like, where you live and where you come from. Because for me also, it's not that I feel as if like, and this isn't to like toot some horn for me, but it's like I don't feel like I needed to have a movie tell me not to dehumanize people.
Right. I know what you mean.
I feel like
it was
that was like, I felt like the movie was trying to be like, look, homeless people are real people, and I was like, well, yeah, thank you.
I totally agree. I do, and I thought it was heavy-handed. There were moments where I was like, oh, this felt like very in your face. Like there was that whole scene where they're like dropping sponsors. The sponsors are dropping out for this team, and one of the like team directors or something, I'm still not really sure like what his role was, but he went to one of the sponsors and was the sponsor is like, oh, I don't think this really reflects well on our image. And he's like, oh, well, can you just make an anonymous donation? And the guy just looks right at him and is like, why would we do that? And I was like, okay, like, I get what they're trying to do. And yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, I don't, of course, like, I know homeless are people. Like, I know they have stories. And so I didn't need a movie to tell me that. But yet, the movie still sucked me into their stories. And so I still felt like emotionally involved in a lot of their stories. Does that make sense? So I was
like, I mean,
well, this still sucked me in.
Learning about characters, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
I think it was the overall, like, we are, trying to teach you something that you don't know.
Right.
Where you hope that some most decent humans would know.
And look, and maybe this is where some of it was hitting different. Like the very end, to me, like if we can skip, I mean, we're not really having a spoiler or non-spoiler.
No, it's a movie.
Yeah. So I think it was just like at the end of the movie, especially when, I don't know, and this again, like this, I want to be clear that this is just me living in California, in the US, in the West. But as they rolled the subtitles, it was like, and we need to start, like, I can't remember exactly how it was phrased, but it was something like, we need to start calling these homeless people and not street people.
Who calls them street?
Who was calling them street people?
I didn't see that. Oh my God, that's bad.
So, in the captions, it was basically kind of like an educational PSA, like just FYI world, like don't call these people street people, call them homeless people. And I'm like, well, I'm not even sure if that's like great, but it just it just hit me weird to be like, well, thank you, after school special. And again, like, I understand that maybe this was like a revolutionary idea. I hope not. Yeah. I would like to think we don't have to dehumanize people for their living status. I mean, I understand some folks in the show had made very poor choices that ended up in their circumstances. Some didn't. Some were just like, victims of tragedy.
Right.
I think also we're losing a lot in the translation there. Like, who knows what that was actually saying, and hopefully it wasn't as odd, I guess, as it seemed to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just felt very on the nose of like, well, it'd be like if it was like, just so everyone knows racism is bad, or like it just felt like a very obvious thing to say.
Right.
And so again, I do understand, and I am putting in all my caveats, and yet still, like, when it ended, I was like, huh, okay, thanks.
Yeah. I honestly did miss that.
I did too.
Yeah, I think, yeah. So thank you for pointing that out.
You turned it off right as the movie ended. You didn't watch the credits.
I did. I was like, okay. I mean, yeah. I got stuff to do. Like I liked it, but it's not like I needed to sit on the couch and process what I saw. You know what I mean? It wasn't like The Handmaiden. I finished watching that and I probably stared at like a blank screen for 10 minutes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, I need to process, but like Dream, I didn't need to process. You know what I mean?
No, there's not a lot of processing.
No.
Yeah, it reminded me of The Replacements, that Keanu Reeves movie.
I love that movie.
Me too. I love that movie. But I mean,
it's an underdog team, right? Like,
yeah, it's just, I do think it's interesting that that the director said if you don't know the context of the story, you might perceive it as too typical. And I mean, I understand where he's coming from, and I would say for me, I was kind of like, oh, this is an underdog sports story. This is, to me, when I finished it, I was like, oh, it was like a typical like underdog sports movie, which. So now I'm like, oh, now I feel bad because that's not what he wanted us to come away with. But for me, that's what it was, and I thought it was great, and it was done fine. But that's how I did perceive it that way. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But I like those types of movies. So
here's the thing: is I feel like I would have liked it better. I feel like it should have been a drama, and I feel like it could have almost become like a prison playbook. I feel like it could have been awesome.
100%.
But it needed time to like breathe and let the characterizations come out. And I feel like then we could have had something very like, yeah, basically very prison playbooky, which is like folks on the margins, really getting their stories, really getting their arcs. And this just felt like we were trying to pack in too many characters in such a short time that I kind of ended up just like, I was like very marginally invested.
Yeah. Well, like, I guess speaking of that, which of the team characters like did stand out for you?
So I did like getting to know everybody's backstories. Like I will say that. And one of them that I really liked was the character of Jun Hyo Bong, played by Ko Chung Suk. And that was the father whose daughter was moving. I think it was it to Australia with her mom and new husband?
She called her stepdad like Mr. Australia or something.
Yeah. So she was going to be moving with her mom and new husband, and he wanted to reconnect with her and show her that he is a good dad, before she leaves for however long, when are they going to see each other again? And that was a really emotional thing to me. Like, I loved when they went shopping and they, it was like they got to have almost this little like makeover montage where he took, his daughter shopping and she got to try on all these new outfits, and she looked like she was having the best time. He looked like he was having the best time. And, they got to make these good memories before she left. And even like when she was leaving, and that was pretty emotional. And even though I did not shed any tears, that did get me in my feels a little bit.
Yeah, my favorite was Kim In-sun, played by Lee Hyun-woo. He was like the young kid who just wanted to find like a girl he grew up in the orphanage with, who, the movie alluded to the fact that she like passed away in an accident.
I didn't understand that.
Me too.
They're like they went on a picnic and they never found her body.
Yeah, and then they just showed this like rushing stream. I was like,
the river's rose, okay? The river's rose.
I backed that up like twice to be like, did I miss something in the subtitles of what actually happened?
It was very weird, but he was just this like. He was just kind of like this precious, like young guy, and I loved him. And I think I like the idea that he like hid behind his hair, like his hair was always really long and over his eyes, and then and he just really wanted to score. Okay, he just wanted to score a goal in the World Cup, and Park Seo-Joon like puts a headband on him and like pushes his hair back so he can like see. He basically gets. A hair up makeover mid game. And
it was sweet.
It was sweet, and it felt like, okay, like let people see you should see, like it just felt like, I don't know, I kind of like the symbolism, I guess, of that. And then he went out in the field, and that was kind of like that's the interesting thing about this movie too, is like no one thought they would win anything. Like their goal really wasn't to win. Like in the end, well, I mean, that's not also necessarily unique in underdog stories. They just didn't give up, and they scored one goal. That was like the biggest deal, was they scored like one goal. And it was, but anyway, I just loved his story. It was like he, like came into his own a little bit, and then kind of like let people see his face. And I like that.
He was my favorite too, and he kind of reminded me of Tech from Reply.
Oh, for sure.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
And
he had a very Pak Bo-gum quality to him.
He did.
And I was enchanted by him. I would have taken more. I'm not quite sure how his whole family committed suicide and looked like they tried to take him out too.
Yeah, it was very
raised in the pretty heavy, just kind of offhandedly very heavy. Like,
right.
He was the only survivor of whatever mass family suicide occurred. He ends up in like the orphanage. They're beating him, and then he makes friends with this like lovely girl. Everything seems like it's going well. He saves money so she can go to college and work in an office. He's got the bank book ready to go.
Oh,
She's in a factory and goes out for like the factory picnic day right before going off to college that he's gonna fund. And then the river frickin' rises, and he's been spending all of his time convinced she might still be alive and hanging photos of her in subway stations.
And he keeps seeing her face on other people. And he's
yes.
So he could use some therapy for sure.
Just a little bit, yeah.
And at the end, I don't feel like there was like a very great resolution with that either.
No, I think there was like a confidence thing, like but I think someone, needed to be like, you gotta stop looking for this girl. He did. I just was looking on his wiki page because I'm curious what else he's done. He was in Money Heist Korea. He played Rio, which obviously is a pretty big role. So good for him. He was born in 1993. So I thought he was really fantastic. I loved him. And I will admit, so I cried twice. I just want to put this in here when I cried. So I cried over Hyeobang. How do you say it? Hyeobang, who you mentioned, Amy, when he had to say goodbye to his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
When she was driving away. I cried. I totally did, because a father-daughter moment like that
yes,
is always
that was emotional.
And then the moment at the end where it involves Kim In-sun. And look, Park Seo-Joon character, also typical coach who doesn't want to do this. Doesn't want to be there, doesn't really care about the players, and then by the end he like loves them all. I mean, it was there was nothing necessarily unique about his character arc. But they're down to like the German team, which is the best team and looks like professional soccer players. And they just want to score one goal. And the goalie, gives the ball out to Korea, and Park Seo-Joon looks at In-sun and says, "Run!" And then it's like slow-mo, In-sun's running, and then Park Seo-Joon takes off and runs.
I loved that. I did love that.
Yeah, so it's like slow-mo, In-sun's running, and Park Seo-Joon is basically like, "I'm gonna run with you." And I was like, ooh, like I cried. I did, because I was like, that to me is like sportsmanship, like you're not gonna. They're not winning this game. No one can, like.
But this was a
winning.
big, like this play was the play, and it was like it belonged to all of them, and
and that's they learned how to work as a team. They gained confidence in themselves. Blah blah blah. I mean, again, typical sports storyline. But it still moved me. When Park Seo-Joon started running, I literally went, oh. And Neil was not watching the movie with me, but he was like on the couch. He's like, are you kidding me? He's like, you just bawled last night over See You in My 19th Life. Are you seriously going to cry again today? And I was like, just go away.
That was super sweet. I agree with both of those moments.
So I have a non sequitur question.
Okay.
And it's to Megan.
Mm-hmm.
Megan, this has nothing to do with K-drama and yet everything to do with what we're talking about, which is...
I know what you're going to say.
What am I going to say?
You're going to say, why didn't you watch Ted Lasso yet?
Correct.
Okay, I do want to. Honestly, the only issue is like...
Why is there an issue?
It's hard to find the time when I'm like watching K-dramas for the podcast.
So
like,
I will
do it for you, listeners.
I will. I mean, look, we don't tout Western television too much on here, but Ted Lasso is definitely that gets to stand out among all of the TV.
We even did a podcast on the Ted Lasso effect.
You did.
We did. But so here's the thing. When I kept, getting on Leah to watch it, and she's like, maybe, Nick will like it with me. And it was, I think you were one episode in, and you text me, and you're like, this show has no right being as charming as it is. And I was like, see?
I know. Okay. I know. It's not that I don't want to see it.
I've cried in every season of Ted Lasso.
Oh.
The first season is the best.
Okay. It is.
Yeah. It's okay.
But all three are great. All three are great. And
first season of Peaky Blinders was the best.
There is
Sorry, I had to talk about Peaky Blinders again.
It is.
There is an amazing enemies to lovers bromance.
Oh, I love that.
That is my favorite bromance, I think. Probably of all bromances, it's up there with Goblin and Reaper.
I was going to say, is it better than Goblin and Reaper?
It's different. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, my heart belongs to Jamie Tart, so.
No, I honestly, I do want to, and Neil said the same, like, Neil's watched it, and he's like, why have you not watched Ted Lasso? And I know, because obviously I love
Neil has watched it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he loves Ted Lasso. Yeah.
So why don't you spend some quality time with your husband?
I know, right? We don't watch anything together. No, we watched the Tour de France together. That was like our bonding time. Yeah.
But I'm with Leah on this. Like, if you love soccer, like you say you love soccer.
I do.
Football is life.
Literally just watched my son play an hour ago. I know.
All right. Well, moving back on.
Yeah. Okay. So what makes an underdog story so popular?
So I feel like we're always happy when we have somebody to root for, but I think that most of us, I know I do, whenever I'm watching a story that really like gets me, in my emotions, I kind of insert myself into the story. And I feel like the big thing about underdog stories is you really can, like, it sounds cheesy, but it helps you believe in yourself, because you're like, well, if the underdog can do it, then why can't I, kind of thing. And I think that is one of the places where most viewers can relate to a character, and makes me believe in me.
And maybe we just love upsets. Like, we love surprises too. Like, I mean, you went deeper for it, but I'm saying on like a surface level, like, we just want something, we want a show, we want something unique, and what's better than like an underdog like rising up and beating, supposedly who's supposed to win.
Yeah, so then I mean, and there's different types of underdog stories, right? So there's kind of like the David and Goliath that you're talking about, which is, like the out of the box upset of like, they come from behind and win everything. But I think I like the underdogs. It's a movie I really like? I like Cool Runnings quite a lot.
Oh my God, Cool Runnings!
Cool Runnings is a great movie.
And so part of what I like with Cool Runnings is like the idea, just kind of like what you were saying, Amy, earlier, of what is winning. And when you get to define what winning is on your terms, like, winning doesn't necessarily need to be coming in first place. It's what is it that is like, that means that you've dug in and found some best part of yourself and advanced. And that's just kind of a universally, you've put yourself in the stretch zone and you've done something special. And Cool Runnings really embodies that to me. But it's just that idea of like, you don't need to go and win the gold.
And that's also based on a true story.
Yeah. And it was
a Jamaican bobsled team. If you have not seen Cool Runnings from the 80s.
And was this are these actually based on the real characters?
No.
2012. So
no.
This was just a random.
Okay. Right. It was inspired by the actual games, but then he made up his own story.
Yeah, he made up his own story.
So is South Korea not normally in the Homeless World Cup?
Well, 2010 was the first year they were in, and I don't know if they've been in every year since, but that was the first year. And then obviously they were just in this year, because I didn't look back through all the years to see if they kind of kept coming, but they obviously were just in it.
Okay.
So yeah, I like that. I like that you put that. It's a different form of
winning.
Of winning, basically. Yeah, you're right. And that's what this movie was for sure. A different form of winning. Because I would say like each character too kind of had a little bit of like their own victories. Like not like all of them. Because again, it was a two-hour movie.
It felt like a big bummer, honestly, for most of them. And I know that wasn't the intent, but by the end I was like,
Yeah, like the older man, he got to hold his like granddaughter.
Once.
I know, but I'm just saying it was like
and then the rivers rose. No, but
yeah, the rivers rose.
Like, do people get washed away a lot? Like,
no, people don't normally get washed away a lot. It does happen.
Yeah, it happens everywhere where there's bodies of water. Yes, but I'm still confused as to.
It was a creek. I have a lot of questions on what happened with that.
Well, I mean, there was also the character who was like, I told my dad I was gay. He fainted and never got up. Yes. And then that was like it. I was like, I'm.
And that was another kind of like on the nose, like, well, we're gonna like go for. I applaud anything that's looking to like be progressive,
right,
and be open minded. But I was like, this like.
It was so very odd.
There's so many ways to do it.
I know. I was like, and then they're all like, okay. And I'm like, your father just died of like a heart attack in front of you? Like, what is happening? It just like, it was very odd. It was very odd.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And then they just moved on. They like didn't.
There's no ever like resolution with like the gay character. He just was like, I'm gay, and everyone's kind of like, huh. And then like I guess we were meant to be like they accept him.
Yeah, but I was like, but he still has like a dead dad, and like.
Well, I mean, I guess that's on his dad for dying over.
Well, true, but.
It was kind of just unexpected.
It was. Yeah. So thoughts on the romance or. Actually, the lack thereof.
Right. There's zero romance.
Unless you count the football player with his girlfriend. That wasn't really a romance, though.
I mean, no. So, look, I didn't need this to be a romance. Like, I get that wasn't the story, but I think having IU and Park Seo-Joon together and not taking advantage of it is a bit of a miss. So, like, yeah, this was not...
a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, like, to put these two people who... I mean, they had chemistry on screen. Like, I think there could have been time for it, but, you know, that's not the story that the director was telling, and I respect that. But I am always going to say yes if a romance could fit into a story. Like, my answer will always be yes, put it in.
I'm baffled that there was no. I didn't even question that there wouldn't be. I was like, obviously, there's going to be some sort of. It's an enemies to lovers. Like, I didn't think the whole drama was a romance. I just figured it'd be like a B story.
Right.
And then it ended, and I was like, did I power down during like a romantic point? Like, what happened?
Yeah. Did the rivers rise during
the rivers rose in my subconscious?
The rivers rose on your Mpbs, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I also
my Mpbs are hard.
I didn't peaked Mpbs. Yeah, I also didn't like need a romance, but like, yeah, I was like, it's Park Seo-Joon and IU. Like, what are we doing?
Right.
And he's like a football. Like, it would have been such a cool dynamic to put in a romance. You know? Yeah, like you said, like a cool enemies to lovers, and then I don't know.
I mean, it was just like a perfect B story. It was never going to be the focus.
No.
I just thought it was a bizarre choice to have it.
Right.
No.
Yeah. Well, I do want to say, speaking of IU, like, what was up with the documentary setup?
I believe she is in 3rd grade.
Okay, look. Like... Which one of you made the argument? Well, it was meant to be in 2010, but
I know, but I was like, I knew I know. 2010 was only like
still
10 years ago.
Okay, so here's my whole thing. Okay, so I am not like a television professional, but I worked for a very short amount of time in local cable TV right out of college in the late 90s. And I can tell you that whenever we went on a location shoot, people who were interviewed wore lavalier or lapel microphones. And she was filming with a tiny little camcorder. And then Megan's argument was, well, she had a cameraman. The cameraman also had his own little camcorder with its just own attached microphone that's like factory, like
Right.
mic that comes with it. You cannot interview somebody with that.
Yeah.
And get good quality sound without getting all of the ambient sound around them, every bird, every...
Their audio would have been terrible for the
Terrible.
entire
Like if you were in my house with me podcasting.
Right. With your dog barking and your cat meowing. And
what cracked me up is that this is a movie about making a movie.
It was.
So you know that while they're filming these scenes, somebody is actually holding a boom mic. Like, I don't understand the lack of camera equipment.
It would have been a cool part of the movie to show how they made the documentary, because that's the whole point. The movie was about the documentary being made of this team, basically. So like maybe it would have been cool to get into like the logistics of how they had to like record this team. Like it'd be funny if like a mic fell on someone. You know what I mean? Like
right.
It would have been easy to put that into the movie. I agree. I don't know what to say. I did try to be like, well, it was in 2010. You're like, Megan.
No.
I felt like that was part of the setup too. Was like, okay, we're gonna be making this documentary. I felt like that whole thread I felt like IU just kind of like faded out.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, because it was supposed to be like, she's like, we're both working on our reputations here, and I need this movie to work so that I can keep my job and blah, blah, blah. But then it was just like the documentary was just happening in the background.
I mean, they got good ratings. We saw them. Like we
yes.
saw them, like
they had the paper. They were happy with the ratings.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was like just a little tiny side scene,
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, let's discuss image rehabilitation, because that's why Park Seo-Joon's character decided to coach for the World Cup team, because he was trying to rehabilitate his image after he poked that
poked the reporter's eyes out.
His management team was basically like, look, you might be done with soccer. Like soccer might be it. Like we might be wrapping this up. What are we going to do to pivot? And what better way to pivot than do what we've just established everyone loves, which is get involved with some underdogs.
Yeah, which is, like essentially charity work. I mean, I think that was the idea of it, is, throw him into charity. And then once he got attention there, put him in other things. But I guess when have we seen this being rolled out with other celebrities? To what effect?
So you mean like Western celebrities? Because I don't really...
Sure.
I don't really know much about Korean celebrities who have had to do like image rehabilitation, but the first person who came to my mind was Robert Downey Jr., who we all know and love as Iron Man, and lots of other things. But he had some major image rehab. Like he had some, major substance abuse in his 20s, and I think in early 30s as well. And I know that he was arrested multiple times, spent, I think, at least a year in prison. I just listened to a podcast with him recently talking about all of this. And even after like being in prison and coming out and getting like a job outside of it, I think one of his first like really good jobs outside of his incarceration was on the TV show Ally McBeal, if anybody remembers that. And he ended up getting fired from that because he was still using. And eventually he did get himself into a program and is in recovery. And I mean, you just look at all of the stuff that happened and all the stuff that was that he got so much notoriety for, which was not very glamorous stuff back in the 90s and stuff like that. And now he is one of the most sought after, talents on any movie. And I love and adore him, of course, because I love all my Marvel stuff, but I think he's good in other stuff too. And I think that's kind of like, to me, I think kind of a big underdog story, because a lot of people who get into situations like he did don't come out of it on top. And he did.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously have Yoo Ah-in recently, obviously a very famous South Korean actor who is obviously in some legal trouble right now. I am curious if he's going to be able to kind of rebound from that.
Yeah, I feel like when we see this, and again, like I haven't seen it a ton in South Korea, because I feel like we're still kind of, new to the game as far as, knowing what that whole entertainment industry is like. But I feel like when actors or idols do get in trouble publicly, that they kind of hide away more.
Yeah, they disappear in a way.
They disappear for a while
breaks.
until people aren't talking about it anymore. Whereas in the West, in Hollywood, it's it's like any publicity is good publicity, type of thing. If they're talking about you, then you're still relevant. And it doesn't seem to, I don't think, destroy your chances at a career if you are in the public eye for something a little less than savory, as long as it's not, harming somebody else.
Yeah.
Even sometimes when you do harm somebody else, sadly, you still can wind up on top. But yeah. I think we're starting to get a little bit better than that over here.
Yeah.
Kim Sun-ho comes to mind too.
That's exactly who I was thinking of, yeah.
Good point.
Where he just kind of laid low, right, for a while. I mean, there are statements that are made and stuff like that, but then they just kind of lay low. Mm-hmm. And I'm not here to judge anybody's personal life, because it's not my life. But it's a hard thing to live in the public eye, and I
can't imagine.
I'm glad I don't. Yeah,
I really can't. Okay, so we have mixed reactions on Dream, I guess I would say. Anything else that you want to mention when it comes to the movie?
So I mentioned something that Leah actually cleared up for me, so I wanted to point it out, because I thought it was interesting. Like, we see Park Seo-Joon's character, playing professional football in the beginning on what is very clearly a regulation-sized soccer field. And then we have our Homeless World Cup, and I did not do my research. Leah did. I was like, why does the field look so smaller than the field that my son played on when he was playing Pee-wee soccer? And Leah, what did you enlighten me on?
So I might have you repeat it, just because I feel like my internet went unstable again. So why don't you just say it, because I'm afraid I'm not even going to show up well.
Just say it? Like what they play on?
Yeah, just why don't you answer your own question, because I'm afraid that this whole track may be corrupted that I'm on.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I'm going to answer my question for Leah, just in case she's not here.
No, don't feel like that. That would be so crazy.
No, you're not crazy. You have unstable MIPS. Leah is homesick with unstable MIPS today.
I can't. Oh,
so God. Leah let me know that they play on tennis courts, which I didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's small, and it's 4v4, so it's
right.
So it's field players and a goalie. And yeah, that did surprise me because I was thinking, they don't have that many people on the team.
No.
I was sort of confused, and then they show up, and I realize, oh my God, it's a very small
A very small game, very small field. Yeah.
Very small game. And it's there's no out of bounds, so there's like it's almost like
because it's walled.
Indoor.
It's walled, right?
It's walled, which is nice. And honestly, I would love to go watch it.
Like, totally.
I absolutely would. I think it would be really cool, and I'm excited that I know it exists now. So if that's one thing Dream gave me, it's just the knowledge that something like this exists. And yeah, you can go on YouTube and, like I said, the 2023 games played in Sacramento were just this month in July. So some of the videos were just uploaded like 10 days ago. So you can, as of the time of this recording, so you can go and watch some games.
And it's a fun, sweet movie, like it is.
Oh,
but I think also like the context of watching it, like I literally just finished watching Seo-Joon My 19th Life, which had me all in my feels, and this is a weird direction to go from that.
But I think like you could, if you have like kids that are, okay with reading subtitles, you can watch this with your kids. I'm sure they would like it. It's funny.
There is an F-bomb in the subtitles.
Oh, well.
There is at one point. There's just letting y'all know if you're inviting the kids to watch.
I didn't even notice that.
There's an F-bomb in the subtitles, and So-min and Hongdae do flip each other off, so,
Oh, that's true. Okay, so like teenagers.
Which is fine. I mean...
Yeah, I'd let my kids watch that. So yeah, I mean, I think, I do think it was like an entertaining movie. I had a good time. And it's not like it was a movie that, like, scared me or like scarred me, like Requiem for a Dream, which I'm still not over. So...
Right, it wasn't one of those movies where you're watching, you're like, oh my gosh, is everybody going to be okay in the end? Like,
right,
the rivers rose.
Okay, other than the rivers, it's okay. Everyone was okay.
Right, if somebody does know, though, what happened to this girl in the movie, like, let us know.
Let us know, because we clearly are a little
all the narration says is that she went on a team picnic from her job because he was like, why don't you stop, quit your job now and be done. She's like, no, I want to finish out the month or whatever. And then she went to the last team picnic, and then somehow it's behind police tape, and there's a rushing river and people crying on the ground, and her body was never found. And I don't know what that means.
Like, why am I laughing? It's not funny.
It's not funny at all, but I don't know what it means. I feel like that scene was like...
feel like big jerks if this is like a real story.
I will. I feel like a huge jerk if this is a real story, but like, you know what? I'm like a few MIPs short of what happened in that scene. So.
A few MIPs short. Oh God. We should end this before Leah loses all her
I think
MIPs.
we leave it there. MIPs out.
Yep. Annyeong.
Annyeong.
Kamsahamnida. Thank you for listening to Afternoona Delight. Where can you find us outside the pod? Head on over to afternoonadelight.com. That's AFTERNOONADELIGHT.com. You'll find links to all our social media, our book recs, K-pop and K-skincare recs, and if you want even more Afternoona Delight, because really who doesn't, you can join our Patreon, where you can choose the patron level that's right for you. Join in daily K-drama conversations, listen to bonus podcast episodes just for patrons, and participate in our monthly live K-drama support group via Zoom. We can't wait for you to be a part of the community. Until next time, annyeong!